I want to talk today about the Eucharist. We're about to mark the Feast of Corpus Christi. Behind me is the Aumbrey, where we keep the reserved sacrament at St Andrew's Church. And what I want to talk about really is this sense of permanence and eternity in a very temporary world. And I think that is one of the keys to unlocking the meaning of the host and what's going on with the new bread and the wine. The Feast of Corpus Christi itself goes back to the 14th century. It was the high watermark of relics, really. Finding a holy, lots of churches had holy bones or holy this and that. And, so if you went to Durham, you'd have St Cuthbert's bones and all this kind of stuff, or St James's in Italy or Spain. And at this point, people started on their Saints' Day taking out the bones in whatever wonderful box they were in, or the reliquary, so-called, and you would go out possibly to process around the streets or into the fields to bless the fields for the harvest with your saints' bones. And this kind of transmutation of the physical stuff into having some sort of spiritual power, I think the Pope just looked at it and thought, well, look, if we can have kind of saints' bones here, there and every way, what about making something out of the one physical thing that Jesus himself was connected with, which is the bread that he blessed at the Last Supper, which we continue to bless every time at communion. So this isn't just a feast day, this is like the year's feast day for the body of Christ, Corpus Christi. That's the kind of origin of it. And there are 1,000 ways of taking this meaning out of this, because it's such a sort of profound part of Christian theology. I just want to point to one simple thing, which is the link between eternity and temporariness. Bread, if you break open a loaf of bread today, once it's open, it immediately starts going off. It tastes fresh straight away, tastes fresh for the next few hours, but then the crust will start getting hard. And supermarkets work hard to mitigate this by putting in tons of preservatives so that the loaf of bread you buy on Monday is still okay on Friday. But eventually, even with stuff with preservatives and salt, bread will go off. It is a very temporary thing in the world. And that must have been even more the case in the ancient world. There's no fridges, there's no preservatives, it's hot. You break the bread at 9 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock, it'll be harder to eat it. And this must have been very frustrating, because it's fine in the summer when there's lots of bread around, but eventually, you might end up hungry. And sometimes you end up hungry. Can't you have bread that will last forever? And Jesus takes that emotion of the bread that you want to last forever, and he does a different spin on it. It's the same trick he's played elsewhere. So the woman at the well, she's drawn in to get water. He said, why do you need water? Well, I'm thirsty. He said, yeah, but if you come to me, I'm the living water. And if you drink from me, you'll never be thirsty. Or the true vine, he takes wine, which is a wonderful drink, but then says, I am the true vine. My wine is sweeter than the wine that you can get anywhere else. Here, I am the living bread. And it is a pointer towards eternity, because of course he's not literally saying, oh, I'm going to bless this bread, and then if you eat this, you'll never be hungry again, because you can have communion, you can still be hungry, but it's meeting a spiritual permanent need. And this is the kind of opening up of eternity in the present. It's the opening up of eternity in the present. And that, we could say 1,000 other things, but just holding on to that, something of that is the pointer at the Eucharist. The Eucharist, and baptism for that matter, opens up a world of eternity in the present. And eventually, the meaning of life sits in that eternal world. We're just in a temporary kind of part of it, temporary aspect. So Corpus Christi, yes, it's about the spiritual power in the consecrated host of bread at the Last Supper, which we continue to do on Sunday mornings, but it is the pointer to eternity.